everyone, and welcome back to the Cooldown Room. Today we're going to be chatting about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and I am joined, making his official Cooldown Room debut, by the lovely Dan.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know how this works, but
No, I didn't think that far ahead, to be honest.
that's okay. Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm 20, from America. I'm a college student. Ooh, am I introducing myself now? Is that something we do?
Go for it.
Cool.
I don't really have a format yet, to be
That's basically all I was gonna do. Yeah. My favorite drivers probably Sainz and Sargent. Sargent just because it's cool to see an American driver, but
yes.
you know.
Yeah. You're our token American here on the Cooldown Room, representing the new American fan base.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and you guys already know me, so I don't need to introduce myself.
Now the mic knows you too.
Yeah, the mic definitely knows me. So yeah, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Bit of a boring race overall, I would say.
I mean,
maybe you
honestly,
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
You enjoy every race.
Well, no, I mean, there was a period. No, I mean, first of all, at least for me, I think what helps, I think we've established it's over. Like,
The championship.
Verstappen's winning the championship.
It's
Red Bull's
race
winning the
2.
championship.
It's race.
It's over.
It's race 2
It's
and
over.
it's already
It's
over.
over. It's over. We can discuss a bit more on it soon, but I'm like 80% confident Verstappen's winning the championship. 100% confident Red Bull's winning the championship.
It's
agree. Over. Yeah. So the joy of it right now is less who's going to win the championship. More watching the rest of the battle. So first of all, you have Verstappen starting in P15, and just like seeing like I was 100. Are we discussing results now, or is it?
Yeah, we can just
spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the race
Don't
yet.
worry, I'm pretty sure they've all seen the race. If you've made it to the cooldown room, there's chances are you've probably not been able to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are spoilers running a
It's hard to avoid spoilers for F1.
I was like 100% sure that Verstappen was gonna just drive from P15 to P1 easily.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't think there'd be any question.
Did you not think Checo would cause a problem?
Well, I mean, I didn't think Checo would just let him pass, but I thought Verstappen wouldn't have any problem getting to Checo. It was 25 laps, and Verstappen was already in like P2. Like Checo held that 5-second gap for like the whole last half of the race, which is impressive. But do we talk about? I don't know how this works exactly.
Talk about whatever we want relating to the race.
I watched the first episode of this.
That's okay.
And everything. But I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if there's an order we have to follow.
No, look, there's no rules here. Nothing is censored.
Checo held the 5-second gap for a decent portion of the race. Like it was at least the last half of the race. I did not expect that, because the amount that Verstappen gained on everyone else, without Checo really gaining much on anyone else, was insane. Like I figured he would just pass Checo at some point.
Right. I think I'm going to have to officially check, but I'm pretty sure my predictions for this race was for Max to come P2. So I actually did correctly predict that with Perez winning. And I think I said Alonso third, actually.
Yeah.
Either Alonso or Russell, which actually is kind of what happened in the end. So I was pretty spot on with my predictions for that one. So my logic with the whole Verstappen thing, I agreed that he would have no problem cutting through the pack because, that Red Bull is a rocket ship. Honestly, we saw it in Bahrain. We've seen it again in Saudi Arabia. It does not look like there's any team who's going to be able to stop them right now. And fair play, honestly, it's another brilliantly designed piece of machinery. But I figured with the amount of time it would take Max to get through the pack, he'll be stuck behind slower cars a little bit. My logic was just that the amount of time that he'd be behind, he just wouldn't be able to catch up. And that is basically what happened. He didn't really have much more in the tank, if that makes sense.
I agree and disagree. Okay. I will say he was helped by, there was a safety car in there that helped him with the pit.
Yes.
Although a lot of I think he was in like P5, P6 by the time the safety car came out. But again, he had the whole second half of the race behind Checo.
Yeah.
And Checo's not faster than Max. I think that's pretty well established. Checo seems to be pretty good on pace, but even if Checo is 3/10 slower a lap, 25 laps is that's more than enough for Verstappen to make up the time.
Just for the viewers, I'm sure everyone knows this by now, but by no means are we hating on Checo or trying to diminish his ability as a driver.
No, he's...
As an Albon fan myself, I am very much used to the Max Verstappen teammate grind. It's difficult. Max is just one of those drivers that is just so quick on a one-lap pace, and he's able to just go and go and go at that same level and just not lose that consistency. So it's great to watch, but also it's not great to watch because we want to see some variety.
Verstappen is a great driver, and we've known that.
Yes.
It's just now he has by far the fastest car. And to be fair, Checo did well. Checo did everything he needed to do. He kept that gap with Verstappen. So it's not... He can match Verstappen at race pace to some extent.
Yeah.
It's just, like... I don't know. Are we focusing on the race right now?
Anything
I'm not too
we want.
Just anything I want.
Anything
okay, then let's jump into this right now. So we've talked about this before. How can Checo win a championship? If you haven't seen that episode, go back to previous videos on the LastLapLucy channel. Make it pop up right. I don't know if you can do that, but it's also pretty obvious that it's either Verstappen winning the championship or it's Checo winning the championship. And I bet most people are betting on Verstappen. And that's nothing against Checo. Just, we saw in Bahrain. Like, let me double check that. But I believe Verstappen was like 25 seconds ahead of Checo.
Yeah.
Okay, 11 seconds ahead of Checo.
Okay.
By the time the race was over. But that's the same team.
Yeah.
And Verstappen started P1, ended P1. And I'm pretty sure Checo started P2, ended P2. I think they did qualify 1 and 2.
Yeah. I seem to remember that as well. I seem to remember it being pretty straightforward for Red Bull at the front, but then it all kicked off behind.
Yeah. So the big thing, Checo needs more situations like this, and he hopefully doesn't have to rely on the Red Bull being unreliable for Max or anything. But like, if he needs to not only out-qualify Max. I think Max has to maybe start like P5, P4, P5. Yeah.
So maybe
Checo
Max
has time to build that
slips up in quali, maybe.
If Max is pushing too hard, like, the thing is, it's really hard because Max is also really consistent.
He's so consistent. That's the thing. He's not very accident prone, and the only quali mistake I can think of from Max in recent times was, I think, Saudi Arabia 2021, which was
and that's the thing. That was the second to last
race
of a championship where they were within one win of even on points. Yeah. And Verstappen was being pushed to the edge. They are the biggest rivals we've seen in a long time.
That championship.
That was the like closest championship we've seen in over 20 years. And so he was pushing really hard. I don't know how you can really like fluster Verstappen or anything. Like you could, like
he's got like nerves of steel. Like I feel as though he always says he's not scared, even if he is. I actually remember Abu Dhabi 2021. He was interviewed on the grid.
He was chill.
And he was acting chill. So he was there like, I'm not worried, I'm not nervous, it's just another race. That was him trying to convince himself that, I think. Because he was saying that to the cameras, he's trying to keep up his brave personality, so to speak. But I seem to remember an interview coming out about a month later where he actually admitted he was really scared on the inside and like, my heart.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Max. You never see him crack. He is so focused and determined, and the fact that he was really only scared for that final race in Abu Dhabi, which I would be scared. If I was doing just any F1 race in any car, if I was scared going karting with no stakes. So, you know, Max, I fully understand why he was scared, and I think it's just so impressive that that's what it took to finally get him nervous. And even then, he still didn't show it. He still didn't let us in on that until well after it was all over. So
exactly,
it's a very interesting one with Max.
Yeah, but when it comes down to it, Checo's gonna be there to pick up the pieces.
Absolutely, and he's so consistent, which is like one of Checo's
They're both
biggest.
Really consistent.
Yes, and that's why Red Bull are gonna have such a strong season once again, because both the drivers are just there consistently picking up a really good haul of points.
As long as the car finishes, it's a 1-2.
Yeah.
Finishes without damage, I guess.
That's a point. So we did hear on the radio towards the end of the race some trouble maybe brewing at Red Bull regarding the car. Do you have any idea what was going on there? Because I did not.
So
I seem to remember they came on the radio.
The commentators explained it. You mean Checo or Max?
Both.
Or both?
Either.
So Checo, his brake wasn't... Now, I know last week, not 2 weeks ago, Neil gave some really good engineering stuff. I'm going to give some... Here's my take on it.
Okay.
Checo's brake wasn't as firm as it's supposed to be.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm going to trust you on that
problem.
one.
As for Verstappen, I think Verstappen was something different. I remember him saying downshift. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I kind of.
They both had problems with their cars. With that being said, although it sucks to see, that's not like it could make a difference in the championship.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world.
It'll make a difference. It could make a difference in the drivers' championship, is what I want to say. Right. Because we're really early on. They're 1 point apart. No, are they?
Yeah.
They're 1 point apart.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Yeah, because
they both had a 1-2. They had the 1-2 Checo Max.
Yeah, it was
and then
just
the
reverse 1-2s.
Yeah, Max Checo and then Checo Max. But then Max
and there was only one fast.
Lap.
Only one of them got a fast.
Shout out to Joe,
Saudi Arabia.
fastest lap in Bahrain.
So here's where it could get interesting. If Max does have issues like this, like specifically Max, to the point where Checo keeps picking this stuff up, and Checo's leading. Yeah. That's where we're going to see the relationship crack even more. And that's where Max is going to lose his cool a bit more, and maybe Checo as well.
I would agree.
And that could be where we have a fight on our hands.
I would agree. So kind of like the Rosberg Hamilton situation.
Which is what I said in
you did.
Your
you
episode.
Did say that.
I don't think Perez is going to come out and win a championship this year. I doubt it. But if he gets a good start to this season, he could have a shot. He needs a decent amount of luck on his hand, and he needs to really be in it. But he could.
He could.
He could.
For sure. I mean, he was almost leading the standings after this recent race.
Yeah, for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Checo. I was going to say something actually in addition to what you'd said. Oh yeah. The rivalry, Max and Checo. So, do you think it's likely that we'll see more of an explosive like rivalry? Because forget the on-track stuff. I'm thinking more about the social relationship between the two. At the moment, it seems like, you know, Checo's very happy being number 2 to Max. They have a solid teammate bond. You know, we have seen a few cracks over the last few months, perhaps. And I want to point out that, and again, I don't want to read too much into this, but Max actually went and sat in Checo's P1 chair in the cooldown room. Shout out to the real F1 cooldown room. This is the better cooldown room, though, that we're in. Woo! Anyway, so we actually saw Max sit down in Checo's P1 spot. Probably out of habit, probably also out of him just spotting a nearby seat and just wanting to sit in it. I don't blame the guy. But I think as well, it was quite telling that Max asked what the fastest lap was, and his engineer said, "Oh, we're not targeting fastest lap." And Max was kind of like, "Aren't we?" So then Max actually did end up hardcore pushing on that last lap and did get the fastest lap. So clearly it's on his mind. He wants every single point he can get. I don't think it was necessarily I must beat Checo. I think it was just him trying to get every point he could. But there is definitely potential for rivalry. You know, it felt like they were both getting competitive with each other in that race. We heard Checo come on the radio and say, what's Max's laps? Which again, it's fairly normal for teammates, but I felt as though there was definitely competitiveness in there. So what do you think? Do you think this could brew?
Yeah, that's something so now that you're mentioning it, I didn't think it hit me. I didn't think of this till right now. But because, you know, we also saw Max came in second. A few things with that. In Max's interview, you could just tell he wasn't fully satisfied with that race. Like, you could see it in his face.
Yeah.
And also, Jos Verstappen, his father, he was barely smiling for a second.
He was mad.
He wasn't happy. But now I want to add on. If we go back to Brazil last year, where Max didn't give Checo the position back, and that's where the drama kind of started.
Yes.
I also want to mention, now I'm thinking about how he was raised and stuff like that. Verstappen is probably just like go for every point no matter what kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And was possibly raised like that. And I don't think it's like, obviously Brazil was definitely somewhat selfish, but also like if he wants all the points he can get, he's going to do whatever he can to the point where he can do that, even if he doesn't need them.
Yeah.
But as for their rivalry, it could be really interesting, because I remember when I'm watching the race, some people were talking about like team orders and stuff. And the big thing, I know Verstappen is who Red Bull supports. We know that. They've raised him.
He is
from
their
like
star driver.
2016, he got his first win in his first race at Red Bull.
Gosh, it's so long ago.
Yeah. And he's been with them ever since. He's been with Red Bull longer than almost any driver has been with most teams. I mean, I'm not saying this from knowledge, but like Hamilton was with Mercedes since 2013. That's a long one.
Yes.
I'm
trying to think.
Schumacher spent a decent amount of seasons with Ferrari, but really, drivers don't stay with teams for usually that long of time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think it's only really Hamilton that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
look where Hamilton is right now.
But the whole thing, yeah.
I mean, as though he's won championships, not as though he's stuck in a team that's not doing great. Just to clarify, I was not laughing at that.
But what I'm saying is, we understand that Red Bull favors Max.
Yes.
With that being said, they're not fighting a championship battle against another team this year. We're only 2 races and things can change, but I'm pretty confident, and I think they're pretty confident, they're not fighting a championship battle against another team.
Yes.
I don't see why they're going to feel any need to, especially with Checo, with how consistently they're 1-2, no matter the order, typically Max, Checo. I don't think Red Bull is going to feel as much of a need to do team orders.
Yeah. No, I would
agree.
I
feel like they could have let them fight. With that being said, I don't know how often Checo's actually going to be fighting Verstappen from like trying to pass him. But we've seen him, he can be good on defense sometimes.
The Mexican Minister of Defense.
Exactly. And it's not like him defending Verstappen is going to ruin anything for Red Bull. Obviously, if Red Bull really have an issue with it, they can be like, "Oh, your contract is up in more sooner than Verstappen's," or something like that. Because there's this whole conspiracy that Ricciardo could take his spot or something.
Which
like
I really don't.
I doubt it. No.
We've been saying the whole time it's not realistic at all.
I'm sure Ricciardo's a great driver. Anyone who's gotten to that level is, but
he's a race winner.
He's won more races than Checo so far.
Yeah,
as of now. He's won 8.
Yeah, Checo's just got his 5. 5th. Yeah.
Yep.
Look at us.
So with Ricciardo, sorry, I know this is a whole different subject.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Ricciardo's a great driver. Anyone who can get there is a great driver. Ricciardo, if you're not on Hamilton levels or something like that when you're getting into that age, you're not gonna remain at a seat like that. Like Raikkonen, he went to Alfa Romeo. Bottas went to Alfa Romeo. It's not just an age thing, obviously, because it's not just because of their age, but it's because there are also younger drivers coming up.
Yeah.
Like, Ricardo had to, in my opinion, it was take that Haas seat or that Williams seat. I think he talked to both of them and deal with it if he wanted to stay in F1. He's not coming back with a high team. At best, I could see some crazy it's even hard to say Alpha. No, I was gonna say AlphaTauri, but because
AlphaTauri, did someone say?
If Red Bull wanted to give him a shot,
and
be like, hey, if you do really well in this car, like if they put him in there for 2024 and then decided contracts after that year, and Ricardo just pulls off a miracle with that AlphaTauri, I don't know if he'd be willing to settle for that, but
crazier things have happened. No, I see if Ricardo's going anywhere in silly season, it would probably be somewhere like Aston Martin, because he's not driven there yet.
But he's not. But he can't go to Aston Martin.
Why?
You think Alonso's leaving?
Oh yeah.
Alonso is happier than we've ever seen.
Alonso's living his best life.
Obviously, Stroll's not leaving. That's something I want to discuss too, though.
Okay. I mean, Alonso's not got too many more years left in him.
He doesn't, but he's gonna keep. If there's any hope of a championship for Aston Martin, which there's there's really not this year.
He's had 2 podiums out of 2, though.
He's had, but
that
so have Max, so have Checo.
Yes. But still.
Aston Martin is a great car, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get second place and if we see a lot of that podium of Max, Checo, and Alonso. I wouldn't be surprised if on the right day, the right things happen, and Alonso gets the win.
Yeah.
If the Red Bulls are out of it for some reason, if there's a Red Bull bang or something I don't know if that's what it's commonly called.
No, it's not. Just to explain for our viewers, that's somewhat of an inside joke between...
Oh, that's an inside joke?
I think
shoot.
So. Okay. No, it's fine. So shout out to my F1 Discord server, which is a private closed community. Sorry, guys. But maybe message me on a platform if you are interested in joining, and I will selectively consider. Anyway, so ages ago, like 2 years ago, we were making this joke that, it's one Red Bull goes into another Red Bull.
I was just assuming it was because of the crash. Okay, well, anyway. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
So, and then...
It's a
and
reference
that's how an
to
AlphaTauri gets born.
Oh my god. I didn't know this part. I swear I didn't.
You're too innocent. Okay.
But yeah, Baku 2018, they crashed into each other. They were both out. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I feel like even if there's not much of a championship fight, I feel like Checo and Max could have that flare-up where they crash into each other. And then Alonso just coast for a pretty easy win after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless Ferrari or Mercedes somehow pull it together a little more. I mean, they're very close, those 3 teams, I'd say.
They're relatively close. Aston Martin's decently ahead to the point where Alonso has consistently been the top. Although, Bahrain, he was below a few of them. But for
I would confidently say that Aston Martin is the second quickest car on pace right now.
Same.
Like, fairly confidently. I think it just makes sense. They've got good race pace. Clearly the Ferraris and Mercedes weren't making any ground on them, so I would say, safe bet.
Aston Martin is the second best car. I think Alonso will stay as long as he can fight for podiums in that Aston Martin. I'm hoping it goes up for them, because it would be so cool to see him fighting for a championship.
Yeah, imagine. That would be the real definition of old versus new. The whole Alonso, yeah.
I bet Alonso will retire from Aston Martin.
Yeah,
unless
I would agree.
Anything could happen.
Goodbye, Fernando. See you when you come back.
I mean, to be honest, he's
how old
still
is he now?
He's in his 40s. Wait, I think he's in his 40s.
41, I would have guessed.
I think so, yeah.
And that's quite
is
old
41
for an athlete.
That's old for F1.
Like, when you think, especially just across sport in general, Olympic athletes, they're like, what, maybe retire at 30? Like, probably helped by the fact that they get a load of money, but also, they're past their prime at that point.
Yeah. Alonso still has championship talent.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what he was like back in the day, but he could if he was in that Red Bull. Not that I don't know if he's better than Checo. I don't know if he's better than Max. I feel like he could definitely put up a fight, and he could be doing at least as well as Checo. So if I don't really see any of the top top three, as in like Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, pulling Alonso. I feel like Red Bull has other options, but also they had other options when they signed Checo.
Yeah.
I feel like Mercedes has other options, although Mercedes doesn't have like another. Well, Vesti's coming up, but we don't know about Vesti yet.
Vesti won the feature race actually.
He did, yes,
F2.
but it's been 4 races.
Some good luck actually on Vesti's part. Did you watch the F2 race?
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah. So, long story short, it was Behrman and Victor Martin? Victor Martin?
Yep, that sounds right.
He was, the two of them were kind of fighting it out towards the front. Behrman went for a move.
Did they crash or something?
No. So Behrman went for a move, and then he kind of ended up slightly out of position. And Vesti just took advantage and kind of skated past Behrman. And those two are teammates, I'll mention. Oh, sorry, I know we've gone a bit off F1 topic here, but it's fine. We're going to learn a bit about Formula 2. And
Behrman and who were fighting?
Victor Martin. Oh, Vesti's teammates. Victor Martins is... He's French.
Okay, so Behrman and Martin.
Yes. So they
Martin
were fighting.
Retired.
Yes, I'll get to that. So Behrman actually spun later on. So Vesti got past Behrman. But then at some point, Behrman was probably a bit frustrated being stuck behind. And can I just say, I do love Ollie Behrman. I have filmed a video with him. If you do want to watch it on my YouTube channel, head over to my YouTube shorts. We did a little this or that quiz, so if you do like Behrman, please do go and watch that because you will enjoy it. Anyway, so yeah, Behrman spins. I feel really bad for him. Definitely a weekend to forget after what happened in the previous day's sprint race where he got absolutely crashed into by Théo Pourchaire. Anyway, Victor Martin just messes up a corner, also spins. He hits the back of his car against a wall ever so slightly. It's just a light tap. He ends up stuck by the side of a track for a little while because the cars just kept coming around the corner. It was just not safe for him to re-enter the track. When he finally did re-enter the track, he pretty much lost the engine. He managed to get across the track, and then the engine just had gone and he couldn't get it restarted.
Wow.
So he did have to retire due to lack of engine. So that was that. So it was a huge shame for him. He was driving really well until that point. So Vesti started P6 and won the race. So hooray for Vesti.
Nice.
Would Vesti make it to F1 though? I don't know. That's not really anywhere open right now.
Okay, so what I think about that.
Yes.
And we'll get back to Formula 1 in a second here, or if you're the host, but Vesti's in the Mercedes Academy.
Yes.
If Toto has a way of finding seats for people, I feel like if Vesti's doing well in Formula 2, he can get a seat in Formula 1, but we don't see a lot of just rookies jumping to the top team. I think Hamilton is the only recent example of that with his starting at McLaren.
Yeah.
And it's different. Like, Russell had to go through Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if Vesti had to go through a smaller team. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, maybe we see Mercedes get back. This is still very unlikely, but let's say we see Mercedes get back up to form. Hamilton wins his 8th championship, retires, and Mercedes want to put Vesti in the seat, but they don't want to be a rookie in that seat.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, let's put Alonso in. Like they'll do almost they'll do what Alpine wanted to do to Alonso.
Yes.
And just put him in the seat for a year or two, and Alonso can then retire from Mercedes, or Mercedes can be like, hey, time's up, or it could be some sort of agreement if Alonso doesn't want long term himself, and then Vesti can come in after that. So I could. There is a universe where Alonso goes to Mercedes, but I am because because people have discussed like Lando or Gasly or I don't know, some of the younger drivers going to Mercedes, because Lando definitely deserves a good car and stuff like that. But if Mercedes is really supporting Vesti and Vesti is doing well, then they could be like, well, then they can't be as committed to someone like Lando, or someone who's not going to retire in a while, even though they could always just kick them out. They can kick anyone. They don't need to be considerate. Just like Alonso could be a good option if Mercedes jumps and Aston Martin falls. Yeah.
Sorry, just yawning away here.
Yeah.
I will say, the time of recording, it is almost midnight here.
Yeah.
That's what I get for doing this with an American.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like we went through a bunch of different topics.
Yeah.
For that.
There was an F1 race this last weekend. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Something else I want to talk about. Aston Martin.
Yeah, what's up?
I know. We've barely talked about the race, but
okay.
We have a bit.
There's not that much to talk about.
Checo won. Max got second. Alonso third. That's all you need to know.
The end.
I want to talk about Stroll at Aston Martin.
Yeah, go for it. Stroll. We love Stroll. This is a Stroll positive channel.
Yes. Stroll gets hated on a decent amount, or used to, because his father owns the team. Mm-hmm. He
still gets a lot of hate for that.
He still does, yeah. I'm just saying.
Unfortunately,
when it comes to standings, Stroll obviously had the unfortunate retirement, but Stroll to Alonso is about what Albon was to Verstappen in 2020. I'd say. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Disagree.
Go.
This is going to sound so weird coming out of my mouth, right? I think Albon to Verstappen is worse than Stroll to Alonso.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think Stroll is a lot better than people give him credit for.
Actually, I will say, sorry.
No,
sorry
it's okay. Go for it.
I will say that, at least with Albon and Verstappen was fighting for wins at the time in the second best car, where Alonso is getting third in the second best car.
Yes.
So, I guess I do see what you're saying.
Max is very much a very top driver. Not that Alonso isn't. Mm-hmm. It's just that Max is very much at his prime right now, I would say. And as for Stroll, he's underrated. He's underappreciated. And he's overhated, I would say. Mm-hmm. If he goes for moves, we saw it a lot last year. He'd maybe have a battle with Seb or something, and a lot of people would be like, "Why is he doing that?" Well, he's racing his teammate.
He had some solid races.
Yeah, and let's think about qualifying. Yes, Alonso has been out qualifying Stroll. It wasn't by much, to be fair, both times this year.
Not by significantly much, but it's just a tight qualifying.
Even if we look back at last year, Stroll versus Vettel. Stroll was still putting in some pretty decent quali performances.
For sure.
It was no guarantee that Vettel would out-qualify Stroll or even out-race Stroll in the actual race itself.
Exactly.
Stroll actually, with Albon and Max, I love Alex. We know I love Alex. But it was pretty much a guarantee that Max was going to qualify above Alex. Stroll and Alonso, bit less clear-cut, I'd say. And same for the race. And I think the biggest talking point with the whole Stroll-Alonso thing is, right now as well, you have to keep in mind Stroll is driving with one fully functioning limb.
Oh yeah, I did forget about that. Yeah.
He is literally he has recovered from so incredibly from his injuries. I don't think we got to talk about this in the last episode of the Cooldown Room.
Stroll broke his wrist.
Yes, he broke his wrists.
That's
wrists plural.
Both wrists.
And a toe. I think that was it.
You don't need toes for Formula 1.
I don't know, you kind of do.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but he's been going through some recovery right now. And it was fairly soon after the race. Like I was saying, I don't think me and Neil got to cover this last race, but we actually saw a video on Stroll's Instagram and other socials where he actually showed his recovery process over the last 2 weeks, and it was incredible to see, really. It just made me respect the guy even more. So, honestly, fair play to Stroll for getting back in the car like that. It really is a big achievement. So just the fact that he's able to keep up with Alonso is huge, in my opinion. You've got to keep in mind, Alonso, 2-time world champion, and then Lance Stroll is like, he's not even won a race. So huge props to him, in my opinion.
Yeah. I stand corrected. I'll admit that. Yeah.
There we go.
And there's still so much left to be. Like, there's only been 2 races. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how Stroll compares throughout the rest of the season, though.
Yeah. And I do have hopes for him. Before his accident, I did actually predict in one of the previous, I think it was, I forget which video it was, but there is a video. There is video proof somewhere on my channel, and if you find it, you get a free cookie. There is video proof of me saying I think Stroll will outperform Alonso in points. Like, he will be higher than Alonso in the points standings at the end of the season. Again, I didn't know he was going to, like, break both his wrists. I can be excused for that now. But I stand by what I said. I do genuinely believe Stroll has a chance to really compete with his teammates now.
Yeah.
So
anything can happen. And absolutely. We'll see as the season goes on.
And it is a bit of a spicy prediction. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, actually, you, again, you're the host.
We're the co-hosts. So you go for it.
Yeah,
Did you
so
forget?
That's like, no,
okay, go
I
for
mean,
it.
you know, just kind of moving on with the rest of the race stuff, to be honest. Like, what was notable about that race, do you think?
Not a lot. The McLarens, again.
Oh, yes, the McLarens.
Suffering.
That car is not great right now.
And they had front wing issues.
I will say something to note, because we're talking about the weekend as a whole, right?
Yes.
Piastri qualified P9.
Piastri! P9 Astri.
So, you know, there is some pace in that McLaren.
Huge.
And along with that, this is something Neil pointed out in the group chat.
Yes.
But
we love
Piastri's. I'd say Piastri's performing better than Ricciardo did.
We're going there. Okay, I like this. I like this discussion. This is a very interesting one.
He's on pace with Lando, generally.
He is.
Obviously, it's tougher to say with a slower car because they are in last right now compared to fighting for fourth last year.
And it's quite a volatile car as well. Like, we don't know exactly what Lando's having to do that's making Piastri look so good. So why am I defending Ricciardo?
No, I mean, Ricciardo's a great driver.
100%.
And 100%. You know, we'll see more often, but Piastri, I think
Piastri's a rookie. You've got to keep that in mind. Ricciardo joined McLaren with many years of F1
I'm not
experience.
saying Piastri's a better driver. Yeah. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Piastri is driving the McLaren better than Ricciardo did last year, as of 2 races.
Yeah. I mean, I think it might have been Neil who I talked about this with, but it's very much certain cars just don't fit certain drivers.
Exactly.
And that was a big issue that we saw with Ricciardo at McLaren. You know, we know Ricciardo's capable of some really great races.
And I'm not saying Piastri's driving this McLaren.
Yeah. Piastri has been very impressive. I know he wasn't off to a great start in Bahrain, but that's, you know, that's just how it happened. Yeah. But, you know, Saudi Arabia, he really did make up for that, I'd say. He's really shown that he can stay consistent. He even got in a battle. He was battling with his own teammate, Lando Norris. Yeah. And then he even was fighting with, who was it? Sargent, who we're also going to talk about.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the Sargent shout out. But yeah, they were. Piastri was able to keep really close to Lando, so go Piastri. And I mean, we knew he could do good things. He has a great track record.
He's very capable.
Yeah.
And I will say with that, like, you know, maybe put Piastri in a Red Bull and he's not doing as well, or put him in. You know, maybe the McLaren just because, you know, Lando also came in as a rookie and he's been doing very well in the McLaren. So, yeah.
So well done, Oscar.
Yeah.
I would say if you're listening, but there's no way. So, well done to Oscar though. We do need to talk about Logan Sargent as well. Another of the rookies, very much involved in a battle with Norris and Piastri. You're the American. What do you think so far of Logan Sargent's endeavors this season?
I so far I love it. I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere. Like,
kind of did.
Obviously, he was in the Williams Academy, and it's not like Latifi was putting up much competition. But, like, all of a sudden in F2 last year, he won, like, 2 feature races, and he got to the point where he could get a super license. Yeah. So it was kind of like, won't he get a super license sort of thing. Yeah. And he was able to maintain, I think, he ended up 4th in the championship. But that still was enough to get him the super license he needed.
Yeah.
And from there, Williams just kind of made the move because, they didn't need Latifi as much, and they decided to part ways, and Sargent got the spot. And I imagine some people didn't expect too much out of Sargent, but he's doing pretty darn good. Of the 3 rookies, we've got DeVries, Piastri, and Sargent, and all of them are in the bottom 5 of the standings now.
Obviously, yeah.
Like, just to be clear.
Out of curiosity, is it 5 that haven't scored points yet? Is that what it is?
No, it's like 7 that haven't scored points yet.
So who hasn't scored points yet?
Okay.
Bit off topic.
Tsunoda, who got P11 in both Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. So, like, he's so close. And also, quick, while we're talking about Tsunoda, he's doing pretty darn good. I know that there was pressure, like, if DeVries outperformed him, then Tsunoda would be in trouble, but
it doesn't look like there's a risk of that.
Yeah, no, it's not that, And Nick DeVries isn't doing badly or anything, just like, he's a crushing
rookie. He's a rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just, we weren't sure how he was going to come in, DeVries was going to come to the team, he's won Formula E, and he's got some good experience under his belt, but we weren't sure how that was going to translate to F1. Obviously now we can see he's a rookie. Will he improve as the season goes on? I would definitely say so.
I bet. He's going to get points eventually, I imagine. So
I think as it stands, great job by Yuki so far. So yay!
Yeah. So Yuki is in P14 overall with 2 P11s. Hulkenberg hasn't scored a point. I will say with Hulkenberg, he's been to Q3 both times. He's got the quali pace.
Ouch.
Yeah. He finished P15 and P12. Then we have Logan Sargent in P16.
God bless America.
And he was in the top 12 both races for a lot of the time. He lost out a few positions towards the end of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Do
we think that might be tyre strategy? I wasn't following Sargent's race too closely.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea. Okay. I just assumed Williams is slow enough that he couldn't hold them off anymore.
Yeah.
Then Zhou is in P17 with some decent performances, a fast lap. He's separating the rookies. So it's Sargent, then Zhou, then DeVries with P14 twice, and then Piastri, who had 1 retirement in P15. With that being said, last place in the championship is Lando Norris. So, which is, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we don't have much comparison for the rookies. They're all in pretty bad cars this year. So it's not
the 3 worst cars at the moment.
It's not. I'd say the 3 worst cars. It's not that Sargent is even the best of the rookies. Yeah. I'd say the Williams at least has pace over the McLaren. I think they're pretty.
Depends.
I mean, I don't know.
It depends on the day.
Because Piastri outqualified. Yeah, I think they're doing pretty well.
The McLaren can clearly qualify into Q3, so it's got the pace. Yeah. I think it's just lacking the reliability and the durability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think Sargent is just getting more out of the Williams right now, and they're all doing what they can with their cars. But so no points from any of the rookies.
You mentioned a bit about Sargent's rookie career and him kind of coming out of nowhere. I do want to just add to that. I didn't really follow Sargent's junior career. I was always aware of him, but he was never someone that I was particularly watching closely. I think the first I heard of him was that somewhat infamous F3 finale between
Yeah, he actually.
The one thing I hear about Sargent, just while you look up the stats, the one thing I hear about Sargent is the numbers don't say everything for him. You can't tell how well he's done based on his actual points or results. He apparently was often the victim of bad luck, wrong place at the right time. Wrong time, kind of missing out just by an inch. So his
let's talk.
resume is actually a lot stronger than it initially appears. Now, what do you want to share?
Let's talk about the 2020 Formula 3 Championship. Now, I got into F1 in 2020, but I wasn't looking at F2, F3, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent in the final race, going into looks like Mugello, the final race, I'm assuming.
Yes, I'm aware of this.
Logan Sargent was at 160 points. He must have been leading the championship. He was leading the championship going into the final race, looking at the points, because he retired in that, and he lost by 4 points.
From what I hear, he got crashed into.
Possibly.
Because I didn't watch it. I wasn't watching Formula 3 when that went on, but I was in a...
There are only 2 retirees of that race, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a crash.
Who was the other?
Zendelli.
I mean, I know who that is, but I don't know if he was involved or a championship contender or anything, so I don't know. Actually, I seem to remember it was I think it was Sargent and Piastri, maybe. I seem to remember whoever it was.
Piastri at least finished the race.
Yeah,
so
whoever it was crashed into Sargent went on to finish the race. That's what I remember. I don't know.
Well, that narrows it down to 28 people. But anyways, Sargent wasn't able to finish the last race, which I'm assuming R2 means feature race. Just looking at Wikipedia. Yes. No, R2 is a sprint race. Actually,
there'll be 2 races though in a weekend.
Yeah.
So
But yeah,
it doesn't matter too much. I think we get the point.
Sorry.
Whoever knows actually, it can explain
one
to
thing.
us.
Last thing.
Yeah, no
Going into that race, looking at the point system, he was actually even on points with Piastri, and Piastri finished just barely high enough.
Oh.
Well, no, not just barely high enough, but Piastri got
back?
4 points. No, it wasn't.
Oh,
it was 4 points, but Piastri finished in P7, so they weren't even going into it. And if they did crash, then that must have been somewhat controversial. But the point being, he nearly won the Formula 3 championship.
Yes.
He got 3rd in 2020 Formula 3, and then 2021 I'm assuming wasn't a good year for him in Formula 2.
Yeah, I mean it was his rookie year. You know, you can't always be expected to pull a George Russell or an Oscar Piastri.
Yeah. And then 2022 he got P4, so he's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And I don't know where his career is gonna go, but he's been doing fairly good as a rookie so far, and proud to see an American driver doing well in
God bless America
sport, doing as well as they could for being in Williams, of course.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so it's time for my favorite part of the post-race episode, which is awards.
Hey.
So last week it was me and Neil. We ran through some awards, some of our best moments. Just basically the Cooldown Room Awards is every race we highlight in different drivers or moments or even rivalries in 5 different categories, which are Driver of the Day, which is our personal driver of the day. We each pick one. Best move, so whichever one overtake or just best move in general. It could be maybe a driver that's transferred seats. You know, we can get creative with them. Best battle. Could be on track, could be off track. You know, could be Ferrari versus their strategy. You know. Flop of the week. That's pretty self-explanatory. And finally, Hidden Gem, my personal favourite, which is where we highlight something fun from the race weekend that perhaps a few weeks or months down the line people might have forgotten about. But we will always remember it here in the Cooldown Room, immortalised in our Cooldown Room Awards. So let's... So let's jump into it with our first award, which is Driver of the Day. Would you like to start this one off, Dan?
Sure. So I don't know who actually got Driver of the Day for this race, first of all.
I think it might have been Max.
Max is up there.
I seem to remember Max got given it, but I don't know. But it doesn't matter. Who would you pick? And you can pick who the fans voted. What do we think? If you've got a few honorable mentions, go ahead.
Honorable mention to Max.
Talk us through the thought
if
process.
Max had won the race, I feel like he would get it from me.
100%.
As for actual driver of the day, I think I'm just gonna go with Checo. I think he had a pretty clean, solid race, and he held that 5-second gap, which really impressed me. I did not expect him to win. So yeah,
fair enough.
That's what I'll say for that. What about you? Who's your driver of the day?
So my driver of the day, I don't know.
I will say there wasn't much impressive stuff going on in the race. I enjoyed the race overall, but it wasn't that impressive.
No, I would agree, to be honest. I mean, contenders for me right now, I'm just gonna think out loud. Sargent pops into mind, just because he held that Williams really well. He's just been doing a good job. However, he didn't particularly do anything spectacular.
No, he didn't,
Alonso, a contender. Strong race. 100th podium. Checo, obviously, and Max, obviously. Now, I did say Max last week, so I'm a bit hesitant to pick Max again. Promise I'm not a, raving Max fan who's going to just say Max every race. I do like variety here, so... I think I'm going to say... Fernando Alonso. Yeah.
Okay.
Solid drive. P2 start. Took the lead at the start of the race. Obviously, he did lose it to Checo, but I don't think that was really any fault of his own. The Red Bull just had the better pace. We saw just no chance. And then he got a 5-second penalty. Yes, it was a mistake of his own. But it was, again, just a really negligible thing, basically. It's not like he gained an advantage from it, but, rules are rules. He served his penalty. Penalty wasn't served correctly, but he didn't know that till after the race. So he got his podium, lost his podium, which is crazy, and we'll probably come back to that. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, I'd say.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right, what's next?
So our next category is Best Move.
Okay.
So this will be one potential overtake. Oh no, no, Best Move is not next. It's...
I don't care. There are 5 things we got.
I did my graphic the wrong way round to the order.
The graphic is different than the text that you have written, but I don't mind either way.
Okay, yeah. So which one? I guess best move.
Let's talk about best move. Let's start with the positive stuff. Do I go first again?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, Stroll was still in this race. He retired in this race.
Yeah.
When Stroll was in this race, him and Sainz were fighting for some position, probably like P6, 7, 8, something around there. I don't really remember where. Then we see this radio message where Ferrari told Sainz to box. And then Sainz did not box. But you know who did box? Stroll. And because of that, with how the degradation and stuff like that, Sainz was able to overcut Stroll and get that position.
So you would
say it wasn't on track. I would say the best move is Ferrari and
strategy. Cool.
I know, right? Of all the things, there weren't many there were some cool overtakes, but just that little fake out thing.
Yeah, no, that was fun to watch.
If that was intentionally a fake out, or I don't know how it works.
It could well have been I think the commentators even echoed what I said at the time.
Do what
he doesn't do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think overall Ferrari made the correct choice, and that's already good for them.
And it ultimately did make a big difference. Well, it didn't actually, because Stroll retired.
Yeah, Stroll retired 2 laps later, but
the crucial overtake on Stroll.
The overtake happened, and it stuck. So yeah.
Well,
that's mine.
My best move, actually, it's kind of similar. I have a few contenders that I wrote down during the race. So my first contender is it's Stroll overtaking Sainz, actually, which is the one I thought you were going to say until I realized you were talking about the strategy. It was lap 1. I forget the turn number, but it's that kind of curvy, straight bit. Like
the curvy part, yep.
Yeah, you know
everyone
what I mean.
remember the curvy part. The one that curves.
Yeah. So Stroll kind of just positions himself really well going into the corner. And as he gets like the exit onto this curvy bit, powers around the outside of Sainz. Absolutely. Was it technically a good move? I don't think it was that incredible. I think he just happened to be on the outside at the right time. But my goodness, it was satisfying to watch. It was like just seeing the Aston Martin power around the outside of the Ferrari. It was a nice one. We do also have Hamilton overtaking Sainz as a contender for me. I don't really remember it now.
No, either.
I kind of forgot what happened, but I'm sure he did a great job. And Zhou overtaking Sargent was another one I wrote down.
That was a good move. I remember that kind of. It was a good move on Zhou's part, yeah.
I think I've ruled out. I am going to say the Stroll move on Sainz just because that one sticks in my mind the most and it was really satisfying to watch. So, yeah, go Stroll.
Yeah.
Best battle. I'm going to go first if that's okay.
Okay.
So I'm pretty set on this one. I decided to turn it into a 3-way battle. Norris versus Piastri versus Sargent. That fun little scuffle at the back. We saw 2 rookies in the mix, Piastri and Sargent. It was really nice to see them getting involved in some wheel-to-wheel action. Bit frustrating to see Norris kind of stuck behind, but it was still a good watch and pretty enjoyable. So that would probably yes, it was for P15 or whatever, but it was a good one.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
Yeah. All right,
they kind of carried the race, in my opinion.
For me, there are like 2 that come to mind. The honorable mention, I know Tsunoda had some pretty good battles with, I think it was Magnussen.
Yes.
And the Alpines too, as Tsunoda lost some positions, but Tsunoda defended pretty well until he unfortunately got dropped to P11. I want to talk about Max and Checo again. They didn't like have a battle, but I feel like just kind of the way they were going for that fastest lap.
Oh,
and that one point, they both there was radioing from both of them. That
How
strategic,
fast is Checo going? How fast is Max going?
That little every step in the championship battle, that small battle, even though Checo won 100 clearly and was going to win, there was still that one point that they were going for. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to say for that.
Oh, that's such a good pick. You're great at this. Cool. I've actually forgotten what the next one is.
I bet flop of the week.
It's flop of the week. If you want to start on this one, I need to think, to be honest.
This is one I'm not as solid on. What do we call a flop? Like someone who just messed up, or
a driver or team or really anyone that kind of messed up. Yeah, just generally, and not necessarily the race, could be quali as well. Just generally did not have a great time of it. It doesn't necessarily mean they suck and always will. Everyone has their mistakes, Everybody has those days. But I think it's just a funny one to highlight, really. Just who messed up the biggest, in your opinion?
That's a tough one.
In an affectionate way. It's a tricky one, isn't it? What's going through your head right now? What's the thought process?
I'm trying to think of someone. There are drivers that didn't do as well as we expected this week.
Yes.
Piastri started P9, ended up in he started P8, ended up P15. Hulkenberg has been in the top 10, started in the top 10 both times, has yet to score a point.
Yeah.
Tsunoda was high up, but I don't know if any of those were really flopping. I feel like they've all done relatively well, and they've just done everything they could. The only thing that comes to my mind possibly is, I guess, drivers.
Sorry, could you repeat that one? Your mic just went a little bit.
The only one that really comes to mind is the McLaren drivers. I guess because Lando and Piastri both messed up their front wing in that first lap, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and from there they were just they were like the bottom two for most of the race beyond that.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what I'm gonna say. Would
you maybe want to say Lando Norris then? Because I think Lando was a bit more of a flop than Oscar.
Well, what happened to Piastri?
Well, Piastri had a front wing issue as well. Mm-hmm. But Piastri at least qualified well. Piastri qualified well.
Okay, let's say Lando then.
Yeah.
I'll say Lando.
But
Lando's obviously a great driver. He just didn't. It's not his weekend. He's not happy with the car. Yeah.
Yeah, I think fair enough. So I'm gonna. Contender would be Stroll's engine. Another contender, perhaps Albon's brakes. Which don't get me started on that. And just McLaren in general. I
mean, what did McLaren do wrong that race?
Just lacked pace again.
They're last place in the championship, but what happened?
Yeah, okay.
Walk me through this. Like, is there something specific that they did wrong?
Just being bad in general.
Fair enough.
I'm actually gonna say the FIA.
I considered that. I was thinking about that when we started this. Yeah, go for it.
For the podium penalty shenanigans that occurred. And just generally just messing all the drivers around. You know, they didn't even spot that Alonso's penalty was perhaps served incorrectly. And then they awarded a post-race penalty when they should have done it instantly, and then they revoked the penalty, and just generally very unprofessional and confusing behaviour from the FIA. Mm-hmm. So my flop of the week is the FIA.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Best move of the week then?
Yeah.
I'm not changing mine, but just like an honorable mention, apparently Aston Martin came with like 6 or 7 examples of other teams breaking the rule that Alonso got penalized for. But when they didn't get penalized, so that's why they revoked the penalty.
Well, that makes sense. I was not aware of that. I guess
just looking online, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll throw into the mix then another good move. A little bit of a shady move, I will say. So after 2020, you know what's coming. So after 2021, they banned teams basically snitching to the FIA on each other, basically saying, oh, you know, this guy's broken the rule, you should look into this. They're not allowed to do that anymore. They can't contact the FIA. Now, here's how Mercedes got around that. They basically said, George, we think Alonso might get a penalty. They basically told George Fernando Alonso might get a penalty. Now, why would they do this? Because there was no investigation or anything. Because they spotted it. Mercedes have a person whose job is to look out for other teams making mistakes. So this Mercedes person obviously spotted that, flagged it up, and passed it to it was passed to George Russell's race engineer, who comes on the radio and explains to George, oh, you know, Alonso might have a penalty. Now, as I mentioned, 2021 caused the ban on teams reporting these things to the FIA. But team radios are all monitored by the FIA. The FIA hears everything. So if you go to your driver and tell them, hey, this driver broke the rules in a pit stop, and the driver goes, oh, okay, the FIA is going to hear that and think, maybe we should investigate that. So that was a very, very sneaky and
interesting
playing by the rules, but kind of weirdly.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one from Mercedes, and I guess something we'll probably see a little more of in the future because it worked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's actually not what I was gonna.
Okay.
That's not what I thought you were gonna say. There, in the last few laps, there were some, or maybe the last 10 laps or so. Apparently, both Checo and Max, at some point, I think it was like turn 21, 23, something like that. They just cut this corner. Like, they cut the corner because, and Crofty was saying it, he was like, these drivers can cut this corner like 3 times before they get a warning. So they are using those 3 times to get in the fastest lap possible to just gain those seconds or something.
That's funny.
And I found that really interesting. But yeah. Cool. I noticed Max do it once, and I thought, oh gosh, is he messing up or something? But no, they made it clear. Yeah.
Fair enough. Right. I guess that takes us to our final awards category, Hidden Gem, my personal favorite. Do you have anything in mind immediately?
I do.
Or do you want...
Let me just see if I can find it.
Yeah. Do you want me to
it's related to the podium stuff. Yeah, you can go ahead if you have one.
So the one I came up with was actually a radio message that kind of was the Mercedes radio message, where Mercedes basically told on Aston Martin. I'm just trying to find where I quoted it, just so I can get it word for word, or as word for word as we can get it. So Mercedes engineer comes to George and says, "No, wrong way round." George comes on his radio and says, "Alonso has a 5-second penalty. Let's get him." And George's engineer says, "George, Alonso served his penalty at the stop." And George is like, now it was bleeped out, so I don't actually know which swear was said, so I can't quite quote it word for word, but he said, bleep. So a swear was said. It was just a funny moment, really. Like, I got some secondhand embarrassment for him. It was a bit entertaining, really. So yeah, that's my hidden gem, I'd say. George Russell's Alonso penalty radio message. What about you?
So the whole thing with the podiums going on. He lost the podium first. George made the comment like, "Oh, I think Aston Martin and Alonso deserve that podium, blah blah blah." And then Alonso got the podium back. And then I don't know if you can check Discord, but I did send you the tweet.
I can check it on my phone.
And if you open that tweet, look at because this is in reply to another tweet. And if editors want to use that link to put that in.
Oh my goodness.
It's just Alonso saying hola.
Hola.
After.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
That is good. Yes. Yeah. I would love to. Yeah, so for those who are listening on streaming services, which we are available on streaming services.
Oh, cool.
The tweet is of Fernando Alonso. Kind of, his head is huge, like his forehead is huge because of the angle. And you can see his eyes behind his sunglasses, and he says, "Hola." You can just go look at Alonso's Twitter and see his replies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. I do approve of this one. And it's even funnier that George Russell's saying Fernando and Aston Martin deserved the podium. And then he got the podium back. So it's like, well, you said he deserved it. So yeah, pretty funny, really. I fully agree with your hidden gem, and I think that was a hidden gem. Even I missed it. So that is exactly what the hidden gems are for. So you had a better pick, I'd say. So yeah, there we go. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? Anything at all? Anything we might not have covered? And I guess while you think about that, I will ask the viewers and the listeners, I will ask you guys, is there anything else you want to see from us at the Cooldown Room in our post-race recap, review, analysis episodes? Is there anything perhaps you might want to hear about in future? Any new segments you might want us to add? Please do have your say. Drop a comment, send me a message, send me an email if you want to. I love hearing feedback, so please do come and help us improve. We're always open to it. So yeah, Dan, any idea? Or
I think I'm good.
Cool.
Well, yeah.
No, I'm good as well. So hooray! Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Dan, for coming along and making your Cooldown Room debut. Your official Cooldown Room debut. You did kind of appear on the first episode, but it wasn't. There was no branding at that point. Kinda. It's been great having you as always. Shout out to the person that requested you back. I forgot who that was, but shout out to them. You know who you are. I look forward to seeing you again. I forget which race you're next scheduled for, but
I don't know either.
We'll find out. It's going to be a surprise for everyone, okay? And to the viewers and listeners, thank you again. We really appreciate you spending your time listening to us silly geese waffling away about our favorite sport. So yeah, you're awesome if you made it this far. And I hope you have a great day. So bye from me and bye from Dan.
Bye.
Bye.